One of the reasons why collaborative approaches don't work is because of power imbalances. When you have one side in a commercial dispute that has got money, good lawyers, experts, and the other side with little money, poor lawyer by himself, no experts, it's really hard to have a collaborative approach when their resources are so unequal. Finding some way to level their access to the resources related to expertise is probably necessary, or you probably can't have a mediation in that case. Same thing is true in the area of public policy, because oftentimes you have a diffuse, disorganized constituency against a very well organized and very well funded one. Think of the sort of Protestant social conservatives in the ACLU. It's really hard to have a mediation or a collaborative resolution of a dispute between these two factions, because the ACLU is so well organized, so well lawyered, so well represented. The other group is so disorganized. So finding a way for someone to help them articulate their point of view and actually get organized so that they can participate becomes a necessary precursor. I don't think we figured that one out yet, but one of the ways that we do this in private mediation is that the mediator actually takes on the role of helping one side to more clearly articulate its point of view so they feel heard and also so they don't get run over by a bulldozer. Well, I think the same thing can happen in public policy disputes, where the role of the facilitator becomes not just to hold the space, but to actually help the less well-organized side to clarify within itself what it is that it's seeking, what it wants, and help them to be heard. And it's tricky business, but I've seen it done, and I think that sometimes it's necessary. The person who's very good at this is Jay Rothman, because what Jay has done is he creates processes by which whole groups of people first come together within their own stakeholder group and state what their goals are, why the goals are important, and how they want to achieve their goals. Then they're ready to go and negotiate with the other better organized party. And I think we need more processes like this that will help a group get clarification at the expense of making them stronger because they're better organized. But I think that's probably the price of admission if we want to see some of these policy disputes to be where we use ADR type principles. What I've come around to is the view that there will never be enough mediators. There'll never be enough facilitators. There'll never be enough consensus processes. Most of the disputes in public policy are not going to be resolved by formal, mediated, facilitated processes. They're going to be resolved by the principals going at each other. So what we really need in public policy, as in other forms of advocacy, is for the people involved in advocacy to step back and begin to think about the consequences for the society of the current name 'em, blame 'em, shame 'em style of advocacy. While there are a lot of people that are worried about the cost of litigation, very few are worried about the cost of our current approach to policy advocacy. Because here's what's happening. More people than ever involved in public policy. More people than ever are talking about, arguing about, lobbying about public policy, whether it's globalization, regulation of financial institutions, or mandatory minimums. You name it, more people are involved than ever before. Now, when a lot of people get involved, they have to form organizations out of necessity. And those organizations have to form networks out of necessity because there are just too many. In order to compete, you gotta come together. What that tends to foster is what one scholar calls advocacy coalitions. It's large groups of people that are not in a hierarchical arrangement, but what they share is policy beliefs. They share a perception of causal relationships and a worldview. They've got a story about why the financial crisis occurred, why there are too many people in prison, why women keep going back to abusive relationships. Whatever it is, they've got a story, and the story holds together. And that story is what binds their loose coalition together, not some hierarchical arrangement. So when a new policy proposal enters, the group, it's almost like an amoeba. Like, how does it happen? It's sort of like magic. The entire group will respond to the new policy proposal. Now, the group operates not like a traditional interest group, not like the railroads. It's no longer held together by a shared economic interest. It's held together by a shared set of ideas, narratives, and stories. The problem is that research has shown that if you're in a limited conversation pool, everyone in the conversation pool will become more extreme in whatever position is held. This research has now been repeated among college professors, among union members, among waitresses, among executives. It's demonstrated. If you create a limited conversation pool, everyone in that limited conversation pool will become more extreme in whatever view they hold. The other research is very clear is that once we develop a strong negative attitude towards another group or towards an idea, that is self-perpetuating. The attitude, which is a predisposition to evaluate someone negatively, if you have a negative attitude about, let's say, the religious right, and you read a news story that someone from the religious right is saying X or Y, what the attitude does for you is to help you to avoid wasting time. You don't waste any time reading the op-ed piece written by someone once you identify that they're from the religious right, because you know where they're coming from. It helps you save time. You don't waste time on the tabloids at the news counter that talk about aliens taking over the White House. You can dismiss that. So you get this combination of a large group of people talking about policy. They're talking mostly to people who share their policy beliefs, their worldview, their perceptions of causal relationships. They're becoming more extreme in their views as time goes on. And then their attitudes kick in because they think everything that I've read about capital punishment or mandatory minimums confirms my beliefs. Everything. I haven't read a single decent article. So how could it be that people hold a contrary view? Well, beyond a certain level of stupidity, cunning must be presumed. It must be because they are motivated by some evil intention. That explains it. So a strong attitude, a belief protected by an attitude on an issue, will morph into a belief, a negative attitude toward the people who hold the other belief. And then we get into what's called the attribution of intention, where it's not just that they're wrong, but they're venal. It's not just they read the wrong studies. There is some evil force manipulating them, or perhaps motivating them. Then we've evolved in a situation where people have strong positive attitudes toward their own group and their beliefs, strong negative attitudes toward the beliefs of the other and toward the character of the other. In that situation, each one of them will believe almost anything they read about the other. Do they burn the Quran? Do they burn the Bible? Do they have hidden agendas and secret memoranda that say how much they hate us? Whatever it is, any urban myth gets believed. Then you reach a point of profound polarization. And since neither group can get everything they want, they're going to be profoundly unhappy with any output from the political process. And this becomes self-perpetuating. Then everybody complains about polarization, which, by the way, is caused by the other group. It's the toddler's inversion of the golden rule, which is he hit me first. And that's where we are today.